Welcome, family, to the Kumi Valdez podcast. I am your host, Daniel Price, and I'm with my beautiful wife and co-host, Dr. Kish Kumi Price. Today, we want to talk about filters. We are talking about filters in relationships and communication. And filters, if you know what a filter is, you know that filters either take in the good or keep out the bad, right? So a lot of times in our relationships, we have these filters when we're talking to each other, when we're interacting with each other. So the first filter I would kind of want to talk about is inattention. So
Mhm.
I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, so when we talk about inattention, we're in a state in which we have so many distractions around us, right? I mean, you just think back about like even with technology, right? Everybody pretty much has a phone in their hand at some point throughout the day. I mean,
Almost all
while
day.
you're awake, right?
Right.
Almost all day.
Right.
And it's a constant opportunity to be distracted.
Right.
And
Right.
so, I mean, there are the classic times that you think about, like the old commercials where, you know, one partner, like the guy may be watching football or something, and then the woman comes in and tries to have a conversation.
Right.
And it's just like, okay, the point is we have to be in a place where we understand distractions are all around us.
Right.
It's happening all the time. And so I I want you to share your thoughts on this because it's something that I know I can get frustrated about, you can get frustrated about when we get down the road and we think the other partner was in tune. I think he heard something I said and I'm like, "Hey, you remember when I said this?" It's like, "No, I don't." And it's like we want to do the replay. Like, I know I said it,
Right.
like
I want to pull it.
yeah, pull out the flag.
Yeah,
Like
let's play the replay.
yeah. So what do you think is the culprit? Like in addition to that,
Well, I would say that a lot of times that it's the timing of conversations.
yeah,
So let's say I want to have a conversation with you,
yeah,
and you can be in the middle of working on something or thinking about or processing what you have going on that day or the next day or something like that, and then I can just walk in and not really pay much attention to what you're doing because it looks like you're not doing anything, but you might be in a situation where you're processing, and so
right,
I can start having a conversation with you and discussing something or telling you what I have, what we need to do, or we have something going on, or I have something going on, and then I immediately be like, okay, she got it. You might respond to me like, yeah, you know, you're like, yeah, and it's like, okay, well, she acknowledged it, so she got it, and then and it's the same way when you're talking to me. Sometimes I can just be on my phone and just going through basically on social media, because that'll grab your attention. And so kind of just be on social media, and then you can come in and have a conversation with me, and I'm like, yeah, and then you can say, "What did I say?" And I can repeat back everything that you said.
but it's the level of processing.
yes,
Like how much of it are you able to actually
yeah.
retain and understand?
Yeah. So then we have a breakdown in communication. Then
Right,
because once then I'm like, wait, what did you say? Like a day or two later, I'm like,
right,
hey, did
right.
you say we were supposed to go
It's
here
a
or
faint
do this?
memory.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that I think we just have to
Timing.
really
Yeah.
the timing of conversations, that we really have to keep that in mind when we're
Mhm.
at least ask the
Right.
question, hey, are you busy right now? I need
Right.
to talk to you about something.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the communication issues come in
Yeah.
relationships, because of the timing aspect of
Yeah.
things, because we assume the other person heard us because they acknowledged us
Right.
or acknowledged what you're saying,
Right.
but necessarily they didn't really take it all in.
Mhm.
And so we got to also be mindful of the emotional state
Mhm.
that the other person is in when we're trying to have a conversation.
Mhm.
So that would actually bring us to point number two,
Right.
of another filter, just the emotional state that someone is in.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a really important one because sometimes you don't really know,
Right.
if you haven't communicated that with your partner about how you're feeling, because you may not even have identified the feeling yourself. You
Right.
just kind of
Right.
know you're in a funk or just, processing or whatever it is. Um, And it can be difficult to have a conversation because that filter is there. And so it could have been a neutral statement, but if you are upset about something or, depressed about something, then it's coming through that filter. And so how you receive the message will be determined by what emotional state you're in at that time. So that's another thing just for both partners to be aware of. And I think it will require at times for you to be in tune with your own feelings so that you can share, this may not be a good time for us to talk about this because I'm feeling a little,
right.
upset right now or whatever it is, but being honest about that.
Right. And both people are going through things on their own and they're going through things together.
Right.
So, having having those lines of communication open to where you can express, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. And it actually gives you an opportunity to say, okay, I'm not going to have this conversation right now.
Right.
Whatever conversation that you might want to have, you're giving your partner a way to, let's be in a place of being able to really have a conversation without you being in your feelings about whatever.
Right.
Because a lot of times the feeling is not necessarily about what you're talking about.
Right.
The feeling could be about something totally different or something that you're processing in a different time period. So I think that, just making sure that when you're trying to have a conversation or you're trying to get your partner's attention, to be aware of what your partner is dealing with at the time.
Right.
So, but that goes to also your partner have to be able to express that and say, hey, I'm not feeling well. And also just checking in with your partner every single day, having a conversation, asking them, how are you doing? And versus, like we said this in one of the other episodes, not, how do you feel about that situation or how is that situation, but asking them actually, how do you feel?
Yes.
Or are you okay today? How was your day? So just having those open lines of communication, I think that's going to be key for any relationship, especially when you're trying to talk and have a communication. That emotional state of both parties need to be in a really good place.
Agreed, for sure. Yeah, which takes us to our next one a little bit.
yeah. One of the other filters that I would say for a lot of relationships would be beliefs and expectations. And so a lot of times, there are not expectations that have been stated.
Right.
That haven't been stated.
Right.
And certain beliefs that one partner might have that the other partner doesn't have. So those expectations, I think, need to be stated out front because you can have an expectation of your partner that they are totally unaware of. And so when they're not meeting that expectation, then you feel a certain way, and then you take it out on your partner because your partner is literally clueless about what's going on.
Right. Right.
So, and then that just creates a bunch of unnecessary arguments. So I think, the filter of beliefs and expectations is one of those things. So, you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I know there's a sense of becoming one, like the process of being in relationship, being married, you're becoming one. But you also maintain a sense of individualism, like you are your own individual.
Right.
Your background, where you were raised, how you were raised, what you think about family, family norms, family dynamics, how you see the world. Everything is different about you. No matter how many similarities you may have, you are a different person. And so when you're having communication with each other and with anybody for that matter, a lot of times it's difficult to get out of the sense of self, right? Like that, this is how I think, so I'm thinking you're thinking the same way. Not the case at all, really. So it becomes an opportunity to have even deeper conversations, which we were talking about in our last episode, Lovers and Friends. You have to have that depth in conversation so you can actually get to a place where you understand context. So I said this, but when I said this, I was saying it based on my beliefs and expectations. How did you receive that? Because it could be completely different just because of that particular filter. And I remember hearing somebody say, and it stuck with me, but I remember them saying in a relationship, you can either destroy the image of what you want somebody to be, or you can destroy the person. So it's a choice, right? And a lot of times that's what we're fighting, because we have an image, we have an expectation, even of our partner, like just in total, right? Holistically, what we expect them to be, to do, to show up for us, or whatever. But if they don't hit the mark on all of those things, then you start getting upset with that image that you created in your mind, in your head, right? But it's actually destroying the person at the same time. And so you can choose to either let that go, like my beliefs and expectations about how this person is supposed to behave in my life or show up in my life.
Right.
I got to let that die, and so that I can love the person and destroy the image that I have in my mind and love the person. So that's another big one.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So what would be some of the, to you, in your opinion, what would be some of the expectations from a woman's standpoint of what they might think a man should be doing for them?
I mean, it varies.
Yeah.
It really does. It depends on the woman, right? And I think a lot of times there's some gender norms that I think have been established over time that, you may have in your mind. And I think we hit on this at one point too, but where and it could have been just what you saw growing up, what the fathers in your life were doing, the fathers that you were around. If that doesn't add up to what you're seeing in your marriage or in your relationship, then it can start to cast doubt on the relationship. But it really should cast doubt on why you have established that as a norm and an expectation that you never really communicated. So for instance, if I have a flat tire, I'm a woman and this is what I've seen men do, father figures do in my life. So I'm expecting you to be able to do it.
Right.
Well, some men don't know how to do that. I'm glad that you do.
That's crazy.
But that's the truth, y'all. Like some males are being raised and never having opportunities to know how to do some of the basic things that you would think they've been exposed to over time, right? I know my dad taught me how to change a tire because he knew, things are changing. Like if you are ever in a place where you're by yourself, you need to know this. And so I know that's very like genderized, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's things like that, they're basic things, but if you have that in your mind and then it's not adding up, or, oh, I was expecting my partner to wash my car every, whenever it needed to be washed.
But you never said that.
But you never said it. And he could, right? It's not a problem, but you have it in your head and you upset and you're adding it to your list of things you are mad about because it's not fitting in your little image, but you never communicated that.
Right. About the expectations, you'll see a lot of stuff on social media about what women expect for a man to, bring to the table and things like that. But you never really hear, in my opinion, I never really hear what a woman is going to bring to the table. Ooh. So, the expectations, are just, that's out here right now.
Yeah.
Are just insane to me, because just from a social media and the world standpoint, it has become a thing where, everybody's, women are saying that men they got to be, 6'2", make $150,000 or $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and they have to do this. They have to take me here. They have to do this. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing in all of this? You never hear that, and so it's like the expectations have become insane, and it's almost like, you want, women should be taken care of, right? You should be taken care of, but you have to be in a place of not having your own belief system on how a man should take care of you. Like you can't have your belief system of they have to do this, they have to do that, blah blah blah. And most relationships, the couple should be building together. And so, but you never really hear that on social media, what people are talking about. You know, people are talking about. You just see all these crazy reels and stuff that where it's just they can't take me here, they can't do this, they got to be able to do this, they got to afford this, they got to. And I'm like, oh my god, like relationships and marriages are like really falling by the wayside because of these crazy expectation filters and these different belief system filters.
Well, you know, I feel like it's a continuum, right? But you hear more of that. But then you also have on the other side of the continuum with women who are very independent, got their stuff together, and there's no question, like, this is what I'm bringing to the table, so you better measure up.
Right.
And that's the mentality too. I mean, I think that on both sides of the spectrum, there's work to be done. Right. In a woman's mind about what's to be expected, because in order for there to be harmony and power in your relationship, the power dynamics have to be addressed. Right. Like, and we know we'll have another episode coming up about that. But just the ways in which we function and how we honor each other in our relationship is important. And a lot of that has to do with the image that you set up in your mind, the beliefs and expectations that you have.
Right. And, you know, and so my belief filter is, one of my belief filter is that we are in this together, you know, and we should be working together to make sure that we are building something great for our kids when we leave this earth, you know. So I might believe we should go about it doing it one way. And then so I can tell you how we should go about doing it. And then you might not agree with that. And so because you don't agree, my filter is literally going to be like, she ain't in this. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not really, because I have that belief.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because I have that belief of what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And what I feel like the direction we should be taking. I still have to be in a place of not letting that filter not hear what you're saying.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
because it's timing. Right. I mean, even within, we said timing in attention, I don't know if we talked about, we didn't really talk about timing with emotional state, but that's an issue there too.
Right.
And then it's timing in these beliefs and expectations, because it doesn't mean that because you have a particular belief or expectation and I don't at the time, or I see it a little bit differently, or I think it may be at a different pace, doesn't mean that I won't catch up to where you are.
Right.
You know, it's just sometimes you have to allow for that, have patience and allow for that process to happen.
Right. And just be honest. Right. And just be honest about your beliefs and your expectations. You know, I think that's critical, you know, and that goes back to the part of becoming lovers and friends and having a deeper connection and being able to communicate with each other. Just be honest about your beliefs and your expectations, because, you know, if we're having this conversation, I can tell you about what I believe.
Right.
And you can tell me about what you believe, and then we can sit down and a lot of times that stuff interact with each other. They intersect with each other. So just that different belief and expectation filter, being able to let out what you expect, and then be able to take in what the other person is expecting.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because it feels like it's an important for us not only to acknowledge what we personally believe and expect, and to get to know what your partner believes and expects, but also to be aware that we are in a culture where there are other beliefs and expectations all around us that conflict with our personal and, you know, partners' beliefs and expectations. So it's even more important to know where you stand, so that you can guard against the ways that are trying to like come in and like disrupt what you have going on. I'll just give an example. So there are people who are cool with swinging, you know, like there's like, I know like where they come from, but like you get what I'm saying? Like there's some open marriages, like what Okay, that's your belief. You're okay with that. We're not okay with that.
No.
So we're also not going to try to be close friends with people who are.
Right.
So other people's beliefs and expectations can begin to impact yours. So you really do want to be aware so that you're setting those boundaries, as we keep talking about, within those relationships, because it will impact your home if you're connected with somebody who has that belief and they're talking about all their little rendezvous and what they got into and who they were with, whatever. It starts to like play with your mind in a way that it doesn't need to be played with. So,
and I would say that that other filter would be your single friends. Like filter out a lot of your single friends.
Yes.
The communication with your single friends. You know, especially if they trying to tell you about, you know, what your partner should be doing, and they're, you know, saying like, you got to be careful with that kind of communication too, because that outside noise will, you know, can make you start thinking a certain way if you don't have a filter.
Right.
Like, so if you don't use a filter of what, and you know, hey, you're my single friend, you know, I you know, I hear what you're saying, but I don't hear what you're saying. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but it's just kind of hard for you know, you can learn things from anyone.
True.
Right? You can learn things from anyone. Not saying that they might not have anything good to say or some good advice because they've had an experience or whatever. They've gone through something too, but you just got to be careful with that. You know, make sure you filter that well. And then I think the next point that we should definitely touch on is the different styles in communicating. You know, and so the different styles in communicating. So that's a filter that everyone has, you know, and it's just the way that we have been brought up. A lot of times, for me, I was raised by a single mom. You're right. So I was raised by a single mom. So a lot of times what I hear my mom says, or what she said to me, and you know, I'm like, okay, my mom carries a lot of weight in what she says. So I never really had a father figure to have conversations with me. Right. So my style of communicating might be a little different because it's almost like, I don't want to say assume. I would say I had to learn of what I had to learn how to communicate with my children, how I had to learn how to communicate with you as my wife. And so I think the different styles of communication, that filter is something that we definitely need to work on.
Oh, yes. And we're here as a reminder why we're doing this is because we're sharing our struggles, the things that we continue to work through, and just trying to encourage other people. Right. So I know early on that was a huge struggle for us because there was a misread of the style of communicating, right? Especially if we're in disagreement. So for me, because I wasn't, I guess, accustomed to his style of disagreement, like communication in disagreement, and he wasn't accustomed to my style, then we were misreading each other. So for me, I have a moment where I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I can't talk about this anymore. I've already gotten here. I don't want to go any further. I'm done. I don't want to say anything I don't want to say. So I need time. I need space. I need to go. I need to get out of here. And that's not necessarily healthy, especially when you haven't communicated that with your partner. That's where you're at. Cause then it could be like, whoa, like what's going on here? This, you just walked out. You just, like it takes it to another level. So those are things that we just really have to be real about. And I can say, I think that's why when we talk about the struggles of marriages, if you don't start talking through those things and learning your partner and giving grace for your partner because you understand how they communicate and what it can be bad all around all the time.
Right. And so like the example you just used.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that, like with conversations, like when you get to a place, your default is, okay, I'm going to go take some time to myself to process it all, and then we'll come back and have and finish the conversation. So, for me, I'm like, wait a minute, what? I'm like, wait. I'm like, wait. But there's something in my background that where I'm just like, she done left.
And exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. So I'm like, wait a minute, she done left. So now I'm looking at it as differently,
right?
Because our styles of communicating or how we process the communication was different, because that's like something I didn't even know, and it just like it literally caught me off guard, and I was just like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah, right.
And then for you, for me, it was like when I'm talking to you, it's like, okay, I just want to get this over with.
Right.
Let's talk. Let's go ahead and get it over with. Let's go ahead and so we can get this done and move to the next thing. And for you, it wasn't that way. So I didn't communicate with you that, no, let's fix it and go on, get it over with, so it's not lingering with us. Right. And then for you, your process of that was totally different. So,
and it depends, right? Because there are other times where I feel like I'm more inclined to be like, let's get it done, let's figure this out, and you need more time to process. So it's the difference in styles that's your default. But then there's also a recognition of the emotional state, as we were saying, that you may be in, right? And whatever's happening in that period of time that can impact how that shows up and how it plays out. Because if I'm in a good place and I'm not, impacted negatively, emotionally in any way or whatever, it's easy for me to be like, hey, let's just get through this. Let's figure out a resolution and move on. But we have to give allowances and grace for each other to recognize we don't always know where the other partner is. Like, it's kind of a moving target sometimes. And I can help as his wife, I can help him by being more communicative about where I am, right? And he can do the same. So
so that different styles of communication, that filter is it's a tough thing to go through and to deal with. But once you really learn each other, and the only way you can learn each other is by communication, having honest and open communication about, literally about how you process things or how you would like to move forward with when you're having any kind of issue or whatever, or even when you're just trying to make a decision about something. So I know. There were times for me, like I said, I just want to just get it over with then and just move forward. And it's like I wasn't really paying attention enough or processing or allowing my filter to be open to how you were actually feeling, at that moment. And so I was allowing, and once you shut down, I allowed that filter to let out some things that was like, yo, she shut down, or she walked off, or she left because she's trying to go process something. Or, because like you just walk off. You was like, okay, I need time to process. I'll be back.
Right.
And then I'm like, my filter was like, man, she just walked out on me.
Right. And, it is something different too, because I'll say, like, I know my dad is a very mild-mannered man, like very mild.
Oh, man.
I've hardly ever seen him get upset. And when he does get upset, it's still pretty mild. Right. And he's just
the coolest,
super cool, just mellow. And so I had to adjust to Daniel because he's a coach, right? Like he's very in tune with his feelings and he's very expressive. And so I miscalculated a lot early on because I was just like, whoa, like where are we and what's going on here? Because I couldn't even hear his heart because I was like trying to process the external. And I'm saying that because I do believe that there are people who are struggling with that. Like when you're in disagreement, it's difficult to like separate the emotions from the heart of the matter. And so really do take some time to like think about that, process it, and try to do it when you're in between. Like, okay, if we're being honest and we're talking about like, as you're going through things, especially in early stages, right? you have beefing moments, right? Like we beefing, we cool, we beef, we cool, we beef, right? And so in those moments where you're cool, that's when you need to have these conversations
Right.
to really process it. It ain't time to process it when you're beefing, but what would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the again, it goes back to the inattention,
Right.
the inattention, the emotional states, the beliefs and expectations, and it all boils down to the different styles of how we communicate and how we allow our filters to take in information or let out information. And so I think for us, it was never a play. It's almost like, oh, he doesn't love me because, I'm trying to not talk about it, but he wants to talk about it. Or then I might feel my filter might be like, oh, she's dismissing me.
Right.
So she don't respect me.
She's disrespecting.
She's disrespecting me. Yeah. And so those filters, you got to be careful with those filters because they'll let in things and they'll keep things in. They'll keep things in and or they won't let things out. So you got to really be careful with those filters. And so I think timing is everything too.
Right.
Timing is everything. And, I had to get to a place to where I had to just let things be what they were.
Yeah.
But to you, your filter might be saying, oh, he doesn't care.
Right.
Oh, he doesn't care. And I'm like, well, no, I know you don't want to talk about it.
Right. Right.
So,
and it's real. I mean, you have to address both. And I will say, if we flip this, kind of go flip mode on it a little bit, the filter that we can use that's a good filter is love, right? And when you have that filter of love, then that means you're processing things through that lens. And I hear what you're saying. That may not sound like something that I want to receive right now or that I feel comfortable with, but I know you love me and I know that you care, and like that can change things too, because if your filter is you're still questioning if there's love there, then you're going to process everything differently, right? You're going to be hypercritical, hyper judgmental, insecure, and we all can feel that at different points in time in a relationship. And so if we commit to saying, you know what, I'm going to keep this love filter engaged so that I know that whatever I'm hearing it through that love filter. I'm seeing it through that love filter. Then I think that changes things. And we do want to give credit to every time we try to plug some kind of resource to be helpful if you want to go deeper. So our 4 points today came from Fighting for Your Marriage, which is a highly reputable, well-known book that we recommend. And if you want to check it out, it is by Howard Markman, Scott Stanley, and Susan Bloomberg. But these are things that we think could be really helpful in just having better communication. And one of the things I know we also try to plug our own counseling experience, but one of the things that I know I'm taking away from it is the importance of, especially if you have a relationship with God, is praying for your partner. And one of the things we heard recently was just your partner needs to hear you praying for them. Like I need to hear him praying for me audibly. He needs to hear me praying for him audibly. And that daily. And that helps to form a deeper connection as well.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things that I actually loved about you from day one is that
that's right.
You on our first date, you actually, you saw something that was bothering me or that I was like getting over, and you was like, hey, can I pray for you?
Right.
And so that for me was like, yeah, that's different. That's different in the dating sense for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when, at the time I wasn't really looking, but then when you did that, I was just like, yo, I've never really truly experienced that before. I know I've heard people say, well, I'm praying for you.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I hear
it becomes cliche in time.
I hear you, but you know what I'm saying? I've never really seen you do it. You know what I'm saying? And so when you did that, I was just like, oh man, that's different, you know? And so, you know, going on 6 years later, you're still with me because I chose you.
And I chose you.
Right.
that's good.
No, so that I mean, that piece for us, you know, because you're never gonna stop growing, you're never gonna stop having issues, you know, there's gonna be things that come up, all people are going to change, and they're gonna have different seasons in their life where they become something, you know, a new person, or they might be dealing with something. And so you always having a resource, or you know, getting help with things is there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You know, it's nothing wrong with that. And so I think we are in a much better place over the course of years that we've been married. But you know, we always have something internal, like external, you know, not internal, that we always have something external that we might have to deal with, or that we disagree with, because our belief systems, our filters, our expectations might be different in that season.
Right.
So I think just the communication piece of really just continuing to talk, continue to grow together, continue to learn each other, like that's going to always happen. That's going to continue to happen. The longer you're together, you're going to continue to learn each other. We're going to learn in different ways. We're going to become different people. My purpose in this season might be this, but the next season my purpose might be something else. It's the same with you.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that the communication and having really recognizing those filters that you have is going to keep, to me, in my opinion, would keep down a lot of the issues and what you take in and what you give out. So yeah,
that's good. Nothing to add to that.
All right. Thank you all for joining us.